He was once known as the strongest swordsman, but when he put his life on the line to save his friends, he was called a traitor. You see, in the distant past, war broke out between humans and overgrown magical insects known as devil beetles. This led to humanity being evicted from the surface of the earth and into cities in the sky. The fight to reclaim Earth is still ongoing, so when the protagonist named Kanata from the Magical Academy was doing battle against the advanced insect army with his friends, the numbers were too much for them, so he ordered his peers to retreat while he took care of the rest. Unfortunately for him, he was in over his head and failed to beat them all. His act of trying to save his friends ended in the Sky City almost getting destroyed by the monsters, so Kanata was labeled a traitor, and as a result, he let his talent go to waste, and he refused to go on any important fighting missions. He instead chose to work menial jobs counting inventory and stock. While doing his job, he was summoned by the head of Sky Wizard's Academy Division to undertake a task of teaching the most useless students in the academy. So as he made his way over, a girl named Msora ran into him and got her jam bread all over his family jewels area. And before she could scream out for help claiming that she was being attacked by a pervert, Kanata was long gone. Now that he had sticky jam all over his trousers, he tried washing it off using running water outside. He spotted a weird girl named Riko, falling in love with herself in the glass reflection. The girl noticed him too, and went over thinking he was also in love with her. But when she came closer and saw that he wasn't wearing any trousers, she too screamed, calling him a deviant, but before she knew it, he disappeared. Kanata decided to go to the bathroom and finish the job, but he bumped into an incredibly shy girl named Lekti, who was also entering the bathroom. She noticed that he was only wearing boxers, and alerted him that he is in the girls' bathroom, which Kanata had accidentally found himself in. She asked him if he was perverted, but he strongly denied it. After sorting out his trousers issue, he finally arrived at the head's office, who officially gave him the task of instructing the worst student group in the academy's history. His job was to transform them into respectable soldiers who would represent the academy and help fight against the monsters. Kanata was against this at first because he didn't feel like he was qualified enough, but he got some encouragement from one of his friends named Chloe, so he eventually took the role. He arrived at his class, and unfortunately for him, his 3 students were the girls he had an encounter with earlier on in the day. They recognized him as the traitor who is hated by everyone who is also a pervert, so they summoned their weapons and pointed it at him. They rejected him as their teacher because of his past actions, so they only assumed the worst about him. However, he gained some level of trust after informing them about their abilities and the struggles they were facing. He also promised them that if they listened to him and take his instructions seriously, they would become the top-ranking team in Sky Academy and will be extremely effective in their battles against the devil beetles. The girls saw the wisdom in what he was saying, so they accepted his offer of teaching them. With that settled, the first day of training began. He took them high up into the sky to assess their abilities. The girls found it offensive that he wasn't taking them seriously, since he was flying on a hoverboard rather than using flight magic, so they decided to make sure he never disrespected them again by trying their best to complete the task perfectly. Kanata informed them that the training of the day will be a game of tag, which they found to be childish. He did, however, tell them that they could use their weapons to attack him, and if they managed to bring him down, then he would count the exercise as a success. When he began the training, Msora, who is the group leader, went straight after him without even trying to strategize with her teammates. Although Kanata was fast, Msora was hot on his tail, and he acknowledged her speed and stamina. But what he was hoping for was for them to work as a team, as that was the objective of this training. The girl didn't understand this, so she continued with her pursuit. Once she saw that she couldn't catch up easily, she decided to summon her weapon and went on the offensive. But her wild swings and poor handling of the weapon gassed her out quicker than a fat boy in gym class, so she failed to land a single hit. Kanata increased his speed and pulled a maneuver that allowed him to fall out of Msora's sight completely. As she was frantically looking for him, Lekti appeared behind him without him noticing. He only noticed a bit later. Kanata knew that Lekti had an open opportunity to land a hit on him, so he is confused as to why she didn't attack, but she instead decided to talk with him. He told her not to be afraid or hesitate, so she began her assault with her dual blades. Although she was extremely timid, Kanata took note of her fighting ability. From his analysis, he saw that she was a natural, but there was something holding her back. He concluded that she was trying too hard because she lacked self-esteem and certainty, so as a result, she compensated with overdoing it. While she was engaging with Kanata, Riko was in the background preparing a deadly shot aimed at their tutor. However, he sensed it coming, so he dodged it, but this meant that Lekti would have taken the hit instead, so he moved skillfully and destroyed the bullet with a special ability using his dagger. When Riko came over to ask how he was able to dodge her impeccable aim, he informed her that her killing intent was too strong, so he sensed it from a mile away. He saw that these two had planned this all along and was impressed that their strategy almost worked. He concluded the training after getting an idea of what his students were capable of doing. The following day, he informed the girls that they will be embarking on special training that will be individualistic in nature. Riko, who believed herself to be a goddess, walked out of the class thinking that someone on her level doesn't need this type of training. Kanata allowed her to do as she pleased and focused his attention on the two students who actually wanted to help themselves. He first started with Lekti, who was told to dress up in a maid outfit and hand out flyers as her training. Since she is extremely timid and finds it difficult to speak and express herself, she struggled with it at first. However, when she handed one out to a group of boys who were passing by, she realized that she was able to do it, and it made her happy. All the while, Msora's training was to find out what Riko's weakness was, so Kanata sent her on her way. Msora saw the girl walking around near the shopping district and tried her hardest not to get noticed. However, Riko soon spotted her and went over to ask what she was doing. Riko assumed that Msora wanted to look at her beauty and informed her that she is going shopping. The redhead asked Riko if she could come with, and although she found it strange, she allowed her to join. So as they shopped, Msora couldn't believe that Riko was into reading philosophy when she saw her buy a book. They then saw some stuffed animals, and Riko found them to be so cute, which shocked the redhead since the girl always liked to act cool and tough, like she doesn't care about anything but herself. As soon as Riko noticed that she is showing her true self, she quickly set off. Meanwhile, Lekti had finished handing out all the flyers and reported back to Kanata, who was impressed. She explained that although she was nervous to begin with, she quickly became comfortable after handing out the first one. He told her that it was time for the next part of training, which was to serve the customers at an eatery. He wished her good luck and then left. She realized that this was too much for her and felt like she couldn't do it, especially when the customers were asking her to take their orders. She ended up running away to a corner to cry and bumped into Msora. She then cried and complained to her about the horrible task Kanata had forced her into doing. The two of them talked, so Msora decided that she will help her out. When Lekti saw how confident and at ease Msora was with serving the customers, she was taken aback. One of the customers called her over and identified her difficulty in speaking to others. He told her that although this was her weakness, she should trust in her instructor. He pointed to Msora as an amazing example for her to get inspired by, with how she was dealing with the customers. Before she could turn around and thank him, the guy was long gone. By the close of the day, she along with Msora were able to complete the task, so they returned to their instructor to inform him. Kanata explained the logic behind the training. When they played tag the previous day, he noticed that although Lekti was wielding a legendary weapon and had the skills to do so, she lacked confidence. After he mentioned that to her, she understood the reason he gave her such a training. She now knew what her weakness was and could now work on herself to improve. She also thanked Msora for helping her complete this training. Msora, who first thought Kanata was just trying to embarrass Lekti, understood that he was only trying to help. He asked her about how her training went, and she responded saying that she couldn't find what Riko's weakness was, although she found out strange things about her that didn't fit her character. He told her that she had made progress because she found out what her own weakness was as a leader, which was that she didn't know anything about her teammates. To celebrate their achievement, he bought them both ice cream as a reward for working so hard. That evening, as Kanata was reviewing his students' information, Chloe came in and asked him what he was doing. He explained that after looking at Msora's abilities, he noted that although her magical reserve was higher than most, she was wasting it on wielding a sword because she had zero talent for that weapon. So the following day, when he told her about his findings, she got upset and refused to switch to a different weapon. She even said that she will train harder to get used to it. When Kanata informed her that she is being selfish, she stormed out of the class disappointed because she thought for a second that Kanata might actually be a decent tutor, but she was wrong. Some days go by and Msora had been absent from school, so Kanata thought it best to go and see what is wrong with her. While making his way over, he bumped into one of his old teammates named Yuri, who was giving him a hard time about how he isn't taking his job of training the girls seriously. You see, Yuri is still salty about Kanata being a traitor because he even refused to participate in a match which would have taken his team to S rank. She may also low-key have a crush on him, but Kanata told her to get a life and liven up a bit because he has things under control when it comes to his students. He then walked away from her, which she took offense to. All the while, a boy who is part of the alchemist division named Nua was watching the interaction from afar. The boy is crazy obsessed with Yuri ever since she accidentally spilled some liquid all over him and wiped it off. He had written a note to thank her for being so kind, but after he saw that she was associated with Kanata the traitor, he was left shocked. We cut back to Kanata, who finally arrived at Msora's working place and saw that she wasn't actually sick. She got upset after seeing Kanata and stormed off. The owner of the business was her dad, so he asked him why she is behaving like this. He first served him up a meal on the house and told Kanata that Msora's mother was one of the best sky wizards ever. For some strange reason, he cannot seem to remember his life with her. The only thing that convinces him of her existence is a picture they took while she was alive. He tells Kanata the story of what happened to his wife after learning that he is the instructor of his daughter. Her name was Sochi, and she was looked up to by the other wizards for her incredible strength. There was a time where her battle with the monsters was being televised, so Msora and her dad watched it live, and the girl was so proud of her mother. After she returned from the mission, the people of the area came to welcome her and show their gratitude for keeping their world safe. Sochi loved her family and tried her very best to spend as much time with them as possible. However, due to the nature of her work, she was unable to be with them how she would have liked. Whenever she had free time, she would take Msora flying high above the city. However, there was a day she left for a mission and never returned. So Msora went to ask her father when her mom would be coming home. He was confused and said that ever since he can remember, it has always been just him and her. The girl didn't understand what was going on, so she went around her area asking the people if they knew who her mother was, but all of them were sure they never heard of such a person in their life. When she returned home, she finally understood what was going on. Her mother had passed away in a battle, and as a result, all the normal humans' memory were erased of her existence. The two wizards presented Sochi's weapon to her family and told Msora that her mother sacrificed herself to save them. With tears in her eyes, Msora remembered the times she shared with her mother, so she took the weapon and swore to become a sky wizard who would be very strong. After that story, Kanata left to find Msora, who had left to train with the weapon. The girl was so upset as to why she couldn't master the sword like her mom. She fell to the floor upset, but she refused to give up because she wanted to be an amazing wizard who would fight in memory of her mother. Kanata turned up to her location, and the two of them made their way to the graveyard where all the sky wizards are buried. Kanata informed her that he now understands why she is so obsessed with the weapon. However, he told her to swear on her mother's grave that she will give it up because it is only holding her back and she will never get stronger with it. He reminded her that the objectives of those who gave their life to fight the devil beetles did so because they wanted to protect their loved ones and all of mankind. He alerted her that her mother's goal wasn't to master the weapon, but it was to instead protect everyone, and because of this goal, that is what led her to master the weapon. So he encouraged her to see that the weapon wasn't as important to her mom as protecting the people was. He told her that if she carries on, she will eventually also meet her demise, and her father will forget about her too. Msora understands everything that Kanata is saying. She knows that she is being selfish. However, she only wants to protect the people using her mother's sword. She hoped that if the people saw her fighting with that weapon, they will recover their memories of her mom. Even though there has never been any case where normal people were able to remember the fallen wizards, she thinks her mother deserves to be remembered, so she will do all it takes to master the sword. Kanata is amazed by her resolve and loves her tenacity, so he accepts to help her in becoming the best wielder of that weapon, so all she has to do is listen to him. He told her to swear on her sword in mom's grave that she is committed to becoming much stronger than her mom. After she did so, Kanata told her that his responsibility is to protect her and help her reach her goals. So with that interaction, Msora put her complete trust in her instructor. The following day, Msora returned to training and thanked her tutor. Lekti was happy to see her back. Meanwhile, Riko was on the ground looking up and admitted that Kanata had become interesting. The next day, Kanata is having lunch with one of his friends named Lloyd about the progress he is making with his team. Lloyd remembered giving encouragement to Lekti that one time she was struggling with her maid outfit training. While they talked, two background characters walked by and spat hate comments towards Kanata, which I call drive-by hate speech. But if you guys could drive by to the comment section and leave a like and subscribe, I'd appreciate it very much. Yuri soon arrived and also gave him verbal abuse, but the boys ignored her. She got offended that they were paying no attention to her. She began trash-talking Kanata's team, saying that they are the laughingstock of the whole academy because not only are they the worst team, but they are also being taught by a traitor. However, Kanata responded by saying that his team will win the upcoming match against their opponents, which will shut up all their haters. He told her that he believes in his team, and this statement brought back memories for Yuri of when she and him used to fight together on the battlefield as friends. She quickly stormed off, and Lloyd followed her. Not long after, Riko arrived at Kanata's location and saw him analyzing the statistics of their next opponents. He said to her that they may stand a chance of winning if Msora and Lekti can improve on their skills. However, all of that will be useless if they don't have her on the team. Riko quickly told him that someone as divine as her wouldn't want to train with them, so Kanata informed her that he wasn't going to force her to train before Riko left. Later on that day, Msora and Lekti went to have a discussion with Riko to try and convince her to train with them. Msora was tired of being called a loser and wanted them to work together as a team to improve. That way they could at least win their first battle. The two girls had seen the positive influence their instructor had had on them, and they believed he will have that same effect on Riko. But the girl refused based on the fact that she thinks she has nothing to learn from mortals like Kanata, and she prepared to leave. Msora stopped her from doing so and asked her to at least join them for the match. But when Riko told her that she had no intention of embarrassing herself in front of everyone, Msora went on her knees to beg her. But Kanata came and put an end to it. He informed them that Riko was right, because what is the point in fighting when you know you cannot win? But he also said that to abandon your teammates and to not even attempt to try is much worse than being a loser. And in that moment, Riko has a flashback to her childhood, where she always tried chasing after her older sister who is Freon, but she could never catch up to her. People always talked about how special and amazing Freon was, and how Riko couldn't compare to her in every aspect. Meanwhile, Nua was hiding in the bush being a creep by spying on Yuri as she trained. He couldn't believe that such a beauty would have any association with Kanata. Riko caught him in the act and thought that he was actually stalking her instead. Nua denied it and run away. While that was going on, Kanata was teaching Msora how to use a special move known as a strike blaster. He demonstrated how it is done with his own weapon, and then gave Msora a step-by-step guide on how to channel her magic through the sword to achieve the move. She listened and actually achieved it despite her shooting and sword-handling abilities being subpar. The girl was very ecstatic, so Kanata informed her that she can use that move in the upcoming match to create an opening for her teammates. He had a plan for her to practice it 3 times a day, which she had no problem with. Msora noticed that although Kanata was considered a top wizard, he was showcasing extreme magical fatigue after firing just 1 shot. Kanata moved on to his training with Lekti, who was a bit down because she didn't get to learn a special move like Msora. Her instructor told her that she doesn't need one because her fighting style, which was invented by the sword god and her ancestors and then passed down through her generation, is incredible. The only missing piece to mastering it was self-belief, so all she needed was confidence. So after that pep talk, she went in on the offensive and was much better than she first was, even though she couldn't land a hit on Kanata. Riko was observing from afar, and she noticed that her teammates had improved under the teachings of Kanata. She even thought that perhaps if she also trained with him, she could maybe reach the level of her sister, but she scrapped that thought and said that she will never be a match for her. While she was deeply thinking, Kanata appeared behind her and saw that she was wearing glasses. He asked if they helped her activate her power of clairvoyance. She confirmed it to be true. Riko has the greatest power when it comes to detection skill, which is clairvoyance. She informed Kanata that his plan for Msora to use the special move for victory is flawed because it takes too long to charge up. The instructor agreed and said that that is why they need her, because their secret weapon is Riko, who has the ability to analyze. But she remembered him saying that Msora was the key to winning, but Kanata corrected her, telling her that all 3 of them have the keys to victory because different abilities are needed to win. She also became upset since Kanata didn't force her to train, so he told her that it was because she was too advanced, meaning that the others had to catch up to her. He also made her happy when he acknowledged that maybe her abilities do make her some type of goddess. Before he left, he urged her to think about taking him up on the offer about him making her into an unstoppable force, but all she needs is the desire to do so, and only she can make that decision. After thinking hard about it, she finally joined her team in the sky for training, which made her teammates happy. The day of their battle arrived, but before it could begin, an alarm went off alerting the city of an attack from the devil beetles. The match was abandoned so that all combatants could fight to save the city. Meanwhile, all E-rank wizards were ordered to help with evacuation, so Kanata and his team were on the job. The city's defense system was activated, which erected a barrier around it. We cut to Chloe and her team who were outside the city fighting. They already had the news earlier, so they went out ahead to defeat the monsters who already annihilated an entire D-rank squad. And although they defeated their batch, a new army of devil beetles arrived and had breached through the defense of the city. Chloe's team were too far away to go and help. They were also overwhelmed by the enemy, but Yuri suggested that they fall back to go help defend the city. But Chloe and Lloyd assured her that since Kanata is there, he wouldn't let anything bad happen. Even though Yuri still saw him as a traitor, she had no option but to listen to her colleagues. Looking at the situation, Freon, who was in the control room, decided to take extreme action and ordered all the students to go out and defend the streets. She was told that the number of their enemies had increased from 500 to 10,000. They also located the position of a chimera, which is a large monster that leads the smaller beetles. Now that they knew where it was, Freon told a special team to go deal with it in the hopes that the fodder monsters will retreat. However, when it was defeated, the enemy continued their advance. Based on this, Freon was certain that there were 2 chimeras instead of just one. All the while, the devils made their way to Kanata's team's location. Msora got a bit carried away and decided to fire her most powerful attack to take them all out in one hit. But before she could be warned to stop, she took the shot. And although she eliminated the oncoming beetles, she also damaged a decent portion of the neighborhood, including her father's shop. They then returned a girl they saved back to her mother before regrouping. Kanata told his students that judging by the number of smaller beetles attacking, it is likely that there is more than one chimera, so their task was to find the other one and eliminate it to put an end to this assault. Riko put on her glasses and was able to use her powers to detect the location of where the commander beast was. She spotted it at block 68, so Kanata told them to get stepping and go defeat the chimera. The girls were extremely shocked to hear him say such a thing since this is their first time ever being on the battlefield. And although they protested, he gave them a pep talk on how they have been training to protect their city, and now that this opportunity had arrived, they needed to find the courage and do their very best to keep the people safe. He told them that he believed in them, so they should believe in themselves too. The girls now saw this as an opportunity to prove to their haters that they aren't useless, so they went on their way to fight. Now that only one chimera remained, all the monsters converged to Kanata's location. The team got into position and executed their strategy outlined by their tutor, which gave Msora the opportunity to fire 2 of her most powerful attacks at the location of the leader. And even though it took out a large number of beetles, more kept coming, which meant that the chimera was still alive. So she geared up and put all her magic into the final shot, which seemed to have worked. But the chimera showed itself and fired a blast towards Msora. However, it was blocked by Kanata. He noticed that this monster was different from other chimera. Not only was it larger, it looked much more powerful, so he decided to join the fight for real. Msora advised him to take it easy when she remembered how fatigued he was when he fired the cannon blast during training. He told her that it couldn't be helped because he had to do something about this, so he summoned his weapon and activated a special dark power he told Msora never to emulate. She had never seen anything like the movement and power Kanata was showcasing, and from that display, she knew what she was witnessing was something other than magic power. He attacked the monster head-on with a slash that caused something to fall from it to the ground, which was later discovered by Nua, who was on his way to check on Yuri. Kanata looked completely drained, so he decided to finish it off with a powerful blast, but the beast tried to match it with its very own. His attack was much stronger and overpowered the chimera, leading to its destruction. Msora was the only one who witnessed it, given that the others were buried under rubble when it happened. Kanata fell to the floor from the sky. The girls went over to check on their teacher and found that he was fine. Meanwhile, the remaining beetles retreated now that their leader was defeated. When Yuri saw the withdrawal, she was confused as to what was going on, so Chloe told her that it was obvious that the man she loved is the one who came through and saved the city. And although she wanted to deny it, she knew deep down it was true. Despite all the mayhem, the match still took place later that day, so Kanata came to support his team. Yuri was also there to check and see how his team will do. She noticed that he was injured and asked how he did it. Kanata responded by saying that perhaps he was running away and fell over, but she didn't believe him. The battle began and ended with his team losing by a huge margin. Right after that epic loss, the team get right back to training. Msora works on her shitty aim and screams at Riko to stop looking at herself in the mirror and start helping her out with cover shots. But she tells the redhead leader that maybe if she stopped moving around like a madwoman, then perhaps she will actually hit her target. This emotional damage of a comment results in an argument leading to them getting overwhelmed by the practice devil beetles. Kanata calls an end to the training session, so the team make their way back to the classroom. Msora took to the front of the room and addresses her frustration of how they aren't being recognized and celebrated as the heroes who took out the chimera and saved the city. Kanata chimes in saying that it makes sense why no one believes them, because there wasn't a single soul other than themselves who witnessed the event. Msora was about to expose the strange power her tutor used to finish off the monster, but he held her mouth shut. The girls are really taken aback that their tutor isn't upset about not being recognized for his heroic works, but he informs them that he doesn't really care what people think of him. He moves the conversation along and presents a poster for a tournament that is open to all non-special teams in the academy. Not only will the winning team be promoted by 2 ranks, but they will also be able to eat freely at any place in the city for a whole year, and will even receive special fighting equipment made by the alchemy division. The girls are busy daydreaming of what it will be like to win, so with this level of enthusiasm, they decide to enter the competition. But before Kanata can begin filling out the application forms, Chloe comes over to tell him that he is being summoned by Freon. It turns out that just after the battle with the monsters ended, Freon had a meeting with Chloe and her team to discuss the progress of Kanata's group. She also wanted to know from Chloe if her team was responsible for defeating the Chimera, but when Lloyd assured her that they 100% had nothing to do with it, she told them that Kanata and his girls were claiming to be the heroes, but she doesn't believe them for a minute. So because of the fact she denied their involvement in defeating the monster, Kanata refused to take responsibility for the damages caused. However, Freon contested the comment about the damages because she firmly believed that his team caused all the wreckage in their attempt to fight the monsters. So as a consequence of this blunder, and their continuous failure to improve and accomplish anything, she decided to disband the team. Yuri thought that Freon was making the correct decision because a traitor like Kanata shouldn't be responsible for teaching sky wizards. Kanata then arrived to the head's office to be briefed on what was spoken about earlier. She outlined the reason why the team will be terminated, not to add that their poor training performance earlier on in the day cemented her position even more. He told her that she was wrong about his team. He also refused to go anywhere until he finished off what he started. He promised that he will turn them into the best fire wizards in the academy, so he isn't going to give up. He alerted her that he was going to enter the competition with his squad, but Freon laughed in his face and basically called him crazy for thinking they could stand a chance. So he asked her to bet on it. The deal was that if they win the competition, then the team stays, but even if they lose, then it will be disbanded. The two of them agreed, and as Kanata was leaving, the girls were by the door listening in, but all they heard was that their team was going to get dissolved. He told them to forget about what they heard, and then left them in the unknown. But later on in class, they addressed the issue, so he informed them that all they had to do was show improvement, and the best place to prove this would be in the tournament. The girls gained a bit of motivation after hearing this, so he called it a day and told them to get some rest because he was going to train them hard the following day. Later that evening, Freon and Chloe's team visited the labs where devil beetles are being studied. Nua was informed of their arrival, so he went to welcome them with enthusiasm, but when he stretched his hand out for a handshake, they left your boy hanging. Yuri recognized him as the guy she bumped into some time back, and Nua was extremely happy that she remembered him. With the greetings over and done with, he took them to the sample he collected that time the Chimera attacked. He demonstrated its regenerative abilities and was excited about all the possibilities this discovery could help in when it comes to improving their technology in hopes to win the war. But Freon stopped him there and told him that they were leaving, and before they could go, he asked Yuri if she was really only interested in dating men who are stronger than her. She confirmed his statement and said that it was true, so Nua promised to become stronger and expressed his delight in meeting her again. When they turned around to leave, he pulled out the handkerchief Yuri used to clean him and began to sniff it like a weirdo. The day for the team match for the tournament came, and Kanata's squad headed to see who they will be matched up against. Msora spun the wheel, and luckily for them, they were matched up against another E-rank team. They went over to their instructor to inform him of the good news, but their discussion was interrupted by Yuri, who wanted to speak to Kanata about something. She revealed that she was given the task of instructing an A-rank group, and she was disappointed that her team isn't in the same group as Kanata's squad. So he proposed that this is even better because they can meet in the final and handle business there. He also made a bet with her saying that if his team wins, then she will have to join his group. Yuri agreed to this and stormed off believing that she will win. Kanata finally told the girls the condition on which their team can be saved. The girls were completely shocked to hear that they must win the entire tournament because they don't believe that they stand a single chance. Nighttime came, and one of the students was being chased down by a hooded person who seemed to exhibit the same power as Kanata. The student was cornered and whooped. So when daytime came, Chloe and her team had a briefing on the attack that happened the previous night. However, Yuri was busy daydreaming on the first time she met Kanata. She was watching a match he was in, and one of the strikes was heading towards her direction, so he came in and saved her, and she was very thankful. He told her that he can sense goodness in her, and would someday like to fight alongside her in the sky. Lloyd and Chloe noticed that she was zoned out, but she snapped back into the conversation and was told that their S-rank team had been tasked with patrolling the city to catch this threat. Kanata was in the trees sleeping and overheard what they were saying, so he jumped down to find out more. Yuri accused him of eavesdropping and began to press him, but the emotions got too much for her, resulting to her leaving in anger. Kanata later made his way to class and told his girls that he was going to switch up their formation to test something out, and although Msora was against it, Lecty and Riko wanted to give it a try and see what the outcome would be, so Msora had no choice but to accept. They went back to the training field to give it a try, and it seemed to be working to their advantage. They were then joined by Yuri and her team, who also arrived for training, and their teamwork was so incredible that the girls felt hopeless. But Kanata told them not to worry, because they have come a long way since the beginning. He told them that the only way they stand a chance of defeating them is if they learn how to act as a single unit. After training, he had a discussion with Riko, and noticed that her new position revealed to him her abilities to not only properly analyze the situation, but she also gave out clear instructions that had her teammates' safety in mind. He let her know that she is the most caring one in the group. He called her divine for the way she looks out for her colleagues, and this made Riko happy. Kanata then said within himself that all he has to do now is show the other girls that Riko cares a lot and is not as self-centered as she appears to be. Their meeting came to an end, and as he was walking back to get some rest, Yuri approached him to have a word with him. The girls were spying on him and were surprised to see that he was chilling with the opposition, so they followed them to a cafe. Msora was especially salty about the whole situation. The girls got a table just behind them so that they wouldn't notice. Lecty and Riko postulated that it looks like the two of them are on a date, and she might even be his girlfriend. Msora became depressed to hear this and couldn't even eat her food. She was really hoping that Yuri wasn't his girl. It looks like Kanata agreed to this meeting because he also had something to talk to her about. He revealed that he read in an interview she did that she was only interested in dating people who are stronger than her. Kanata had the wrong impression and thought that she had a crush on Chloe, but she put an end to that conversation and basically told him to shut up. Yuri outlined the reason she wanted to talk with him. She wanted him to quit being an instructor because he is wasting all his talent on those useless girls he calls his students. However, Kanata came to the defense of his pupils and said that him and Chloe were just as bad when they started. He told Yuri that all three girls have incredible potential to be amazing fighters, and that is why he is still instructing them, because he strongly believes in their abilities. Yuri had no other option but to concede and walked off to pay the bill, but Kanata told her that he would take care of it and also disclosed to her that the girls were listening this whole time, which got Yuri embarrassed. Meanwhile, Lloyd and Chloe found a link between all the recent victims of the attack. They were all students who were combatants. And not only that, the perpetrator seemed to be attacking based on rank. Their first victim was an E rank, and their most recent victim was a C rank, meaning that his next target will be an A rank. So later on that night, the hooded man struck again, and we come to learn that it was none other than Nua who was doing this to get stronger, so that Yuri will fall in love with him. Lecty later wakes up the next morning and goes on a jog where she is joined by her instructor. They took a break, and she voiced her concern on how their training isn't showing any benefit. Ever since they switched position, the team had been in disarray. She did acknowledge that them fighting in each other's position might help them appreciate their roles in the squad and may help them work better as a team, but she thinks that it is simply not working. He told her that her analysis is good, and it proves that she is paying attention because what she said is not only correct, but is in line with his plan. She is confused, so he takes her to the eatery to serve again, in hopes that she will get a clue and understand his strategy. As she took orders, she noticed that her work colleagues worked in unison by paying attention to their surroundings and taking notice of what each other were doing. This helped them in being more efficient, allowing them to achieve their goal with minimum effort. So when training came along, Riko and Msora were arguing because none of them were used to their new formation. Msora was in Lecty's position at the front lines attacking the enemies, while Riko was in Msora's position, meaning that Lecty was in the back where Riko used to be, and she could see all what was happening. She also noticed how lonely Riko's position was, since she was the last line of defense. Lecty, who was in the first line of defense, only focused on what was in front of her, so she couldn't really take notice of her surroundings. She remembered the lesson she learned while serving earlier on, so she gave Msora advice on how to better hit her target as a frontliner. She told her to slow down and not to waste any movement, but should instead take her time to focus on making every shot count. The redhead took the advice on board and began to hit her targets with incredible accuracy. Lecty also informed Riko that she now understands how much pressure Riko was facing as their last line of defense. She also appreciated that she was able to keep an eye on everything that was happening on the battlefield. That statement gave Riko the encouragement to improve in her new position. So with this new insight, the team was working much more effectively. Kanata was impressed by their progress and congratulated Lekti for passing her test with flying colors. He later bumped into Chloe, who looked like she hadn't slept at all. She looked like that because she hadn't slept thanks to her role of patrolling the city at night, hoping to catch the bad guy. Msora passed by and interrupted their convo and asked when Kanata was going to let them partake in more advanced training, because she didn't see the point in the drills they were doing. She also noticed that the other girls have an understanding that she doesn't, and she is worried that she will fall behind and let the team down. He told her not to worry and pushed her to get it moving because he will speak to all of them later. After witnessing his interaction with his student, Chloe remembered that he was the exact same when he was teaching Yuri. Kanata met up with his team and took them to their new accommodation where they will be living together. They cleaned the place and made it home. As they were doing that, he went to get the girls some snacks as a reward for their excellent work. He ended up buying a snack for Yuri too and gave it to her when he saw her going home for the day. The two of them sat on a bench, and he told her that he recently learned that she had switched her spear weapon for a sword. He knew she only did this because he was the one who recommended the spear for her. He reminded her about her weakness when it came to the sword, but she told him that she doesn't have that issue anymore. Their nice conversation was put to a stop when Nua came to attack. Since he already beat up an A rank, his next target was an S rank. Yuri summoned her weapon and clashed with him, but she was too slow and kept backing away, which gave Nua the opportunity to cut her down. Her weakness with the sword was that she always backed away, so Kanata was right. She got up and managed to knock his weapon out of his hand, so he resulted in throwing wind attacks which sliced her up like she was turkey bacon. He came in for the finishing blow, but Kanata finally intervened to save her. The guy thought he could take on Kanata, but the instructor injured him, and Nua retreated when he realized he was no match for him. Yuri didn't want him to get away. She tried to pursue him, but he speed blitzed her and punched her in the gut, which knocked her out clean. Nua returned to his residence pissed about Kanata standing in his way. The weird monster thing he collected told him that it could help him achieve the power he wanted. Meanwhile, Kanata wasted no time and took Yuri to the girls' place for her to recover. Yuri later recovered and was shocked to find herself in the room of the girls who cleaned her up. They thanked her for protecting Kanata from the hooded man, since that is what he told them. After she got dressed, she found it funny that Kanata made them live in the same place because he also used to make her do inconvenient things like that when he was training her. He returned with a little trinket gift for Yuri to use as a reminder that she should never give up any time she finds herself in trouble. He then told her that he gifted it to her because he likes her. Msora became a bit agitated and demanded to know why he has forced them to live together, because she didn't understand how it will make them stronger. Before he can explain, it hits Yuri that these guys are her opponents, so she switches her mood and tells them that although she is grateful for their help, it doesn't mean she will go easy on them. She then exited the premises and left the girls to it. As the days went by, the girls continued to train and bond by cooking together and helping each other out. But as the competition day drew near, Msora was the only one stressing on understanding Kanata's strategy, while the other two had confidence in him. She couldn't comprehend how they could be this calm when the stakes were very high. She even lashed out at them, saying they don't know how it feels like to have teammates who don't take things seriously. She realized what she said was wrong and run out upset, thinking she was the worst leader. Match day arrived and Kanata asked her how she was finding living with the other girls. She responded saying that it made her feel like a failure. She felt like she was dragging them down and thought that they would have a better chance of winning if they had someone else on their team. He informed her that she is thinking too much. All she needs to do is to keep her eyes open. Maybe she will find something within herself that will help her with this issue. After those words of wisdom, she made her way to the battlefield where they were facing the same E-rank team they lost to before. Freon was watching and was looking forward to Kanata's team to lose without any issues. As soon as the battle began, Msora ignored their tactics and went on the offensive to end the match in an instant to prove that she is valuable. But the other team easily evaded it and landed a combination strike on her, which sent her flying to the floor. But her colleagues caught her mid-air before she could fall. They told her to stay back and began their assault. Msora looked on, seeing how well coordinated the two of them were, and confirmed within herself that she was the one holding them back. But she remembered what Kanata told her about looking for the answer within. She casted her mind back and realized that Lekti and Riko had built up trust for each other, but she was the only one who didn't trust in her teammates. She always thought that she was the answer to every problem and had to get stronger on her own to win matches. But now she knows that she has to rely on her colleagues because they are all equally as capable. The secret to being successful is working together. With this new insight, she charged up an incredibly powerful blast, which took out the other team, leading to their first ever victory. Elsewhere, Nua finished working on something with the guide of the devil beetle that would make him strong. He then injected it into himself and screamed about how he will now be worthy enough for Yuri. Meanwhile, the girls won all their matches and even beat a B-ranked team to go through to the finals, and Freon was hating every moment of it. I honestly don't understand why she was being such a hater considering she wants the strongest fighters. Whatever. Freon made an official announcement in the newspapers that if Kanata's team lost the final, they will be disbanded. So on the eve of the final match, the girls gathered at the football field to do some last-minute training of their own. The day finally arrived. Chloe and Lloyd were on the lookout for the bad guy, but had no sign of him around. They hope this event will go smoothly without any problems. Back on the battlefield, the teams walked to the fighting stage and the girls noticed that the entire crowd was against them. The only fans they had was the E-rank team they beat in the first round of the competition. The crowd settles and the whistle goes off to commence the battle. Both teams clash and it looks like they are on the same level. The audience became a bit rowdy because Msora was running away from her opponent rather than fighting. But this was all according to Kanata's plan. Her aim was to use her amazing flight abilities to frustrate the opposition's team leader to chase her aimlessly. What the other team didn't know was that Msora was setting them up to be in the same line of fire so that she could take them all out with one hit. But by the time they realized that they had fallen into the trap, it was too late because Msora had them exactly where she wanted them and fired the blast which took them out completely, giving the victory to Kanata's team. But before the announcer could proclaim the winners, she was attacked by someone and knocked out. The alarm then went off to signal a devil beetle attack, so all the students in the crowd run out of the stadium afraid. The stadium was then put on lockdown. Lloyd and Chloe found out that someone had broken into security and caused this mayhem. An explosion was set off at the tower, and Nua emerged laughing and looking like he was smoking crack all night. As he descended, Msora saw that he had the same power Kanata exhibited during the Chimera attack. The guy started talking nonsense how Yuri must love him now because he is stronger than her, so he flew in to give her a forced hug, but Kanata stood in his way and recognized him as the perpetrator. The instructor kicked him towards the stands and grabbed Yuri's hand to make him escape. He told her to continue her escape as he held the guy back. Nua attacked Kanata with the chairs and managed to injure his ankle, which allowed the creep to catch up to her. She summoned her weapon and tried to strike him down, but he caught it and dismantled it as he screamed that she must love him. He pounced on her like he was a lion about to capture a deer. Not even that known celebrity could reach this level of creepy. But before he could land on her, a blast from the Msora took him out and he landed like one of those crash test dummies. The attack didn't faze him one bit because your boy got right back up and glared at the girls giving off that school shooter energy. Before he could even make a move, an attack came hitting him from Chloe and Lloyd. But it hardly scratched him even though he lost one of his arms. It regenerates into a weapon arm, and his entire body begins to transform into a hideous creature. Kanata takes this opportunity to tie up his leg before telling Nua to surrender. But at this point, the guy is too far gone in his delusions. He casts a strong barrier wind that entraps everyone apart from Chloe and Lloyd. The blockade is so strong that they couldn't even pierce it with their magic. The creep then grabbed Yuri with the intention of engaging in adult yoga. However, Kanata could not stand to watch him harm his people, leading him to activate his hidden power in front of them all. After a few clashes, Nua observed that Kanata's power also comes from the devil beetles. He put two and two together and thought that this was why Kanata distanced himself from being someone important in the academy, because they would have hated him more for receiving power from their enemies. He went in for the attack, but the monster blocked and held him hostage using his multiple arms. But the girls came in to save them both, allowing them to retreat for now. Nua transformed one of his arms into a long-range weapon and fired it straight at Yuri, but Kanata jumped in the way and took the attack head-on. I'm sure he could have blocked it, but who am I to say that? Anyway, he fell to the floor with natural ketchup all over his mouth, but he was still alive. Nua drew in closer to put an end to the instructor, while Yuri was overwhelmed with fear and cried like a useless brat. Msora broke her out of that pathetic mindset and told her that as sky wizards, they never give up. The girls stopped Nua from ending Kanata. He then turned his attention toward them and engaged with them to the point where one of Lekti's blades got broken. Nua took flight to confront them face to face. They all moved out of the way so that Yuri could attack him with her spear. She pierced him with it, and it began to dissolve his body since it was especially made to destroy Chimera on a molecular level. He went crashing down to the floor, his face transformed back to human form, and he begged not to be ended. But when he saw Kanata's face, he transformed back and ran towards him to finish him off. However, Yuri threw her weapon, which put an end to the monster once and for all. Nua emerged from the beast in his human form and then collapsed as the dark energy left his body. Now that all of that was over and done with, the emergency people came and took Nua in. Yuri thanked Kanata for helping them resolve this problem, but he told her she is the one who defeated the guy. They asked him if he was good after being fatally wounded, and he stated that he was fine since his wounds have fully healed. They saw Freon in the distance coming in wanting to know what happened, so Kanata quickly run away because he didn't want to be credited for the good he did. The rest of the students read in the news that a pupil from the medical division had planted a bomb at the stadium after becoming unhinged from the stress of work, but a few students didn't buy the story at all and knew there was more to what happened. Kanata later had a meeting with the girls and informed them that although they won the tournament, Freon refused to promote them to C rank due to all the damages they caused to the city during the Chimera attack, and as a result, she had written off all the blame from then for that incident. The team only had a trophy to showcase their victory because the special weapons promised were destroyed in their fight with Nua. The girls came to terms with what they have achieved so far and were extremely proud of themselves. Kanata also announced that Yuri will be joining their team. She even went there with a cake that was meant for him, but he opened it in front of everyone, which embarrassed Yuri because it was a cake that was confessing her love for him. This boy just didn't understand the gesture and thought she intended that message for one of the girls. Yuri run out filled with frustration and expressed her hatred for him. Meanwhile, Nua was recovering in hospital, but he still couldn't recover from a broken heart because the guy still had Yuri's handkerchief in his hand while he wept like a simp. Luckily for him, though, he had some flowers by his side, and one of them was even sent by Yuri. The new team got together to train, and Kanata looked on like a proud father, bringing the season to an end. Shout out to Mirage237-WSR for being honest and keeping it toasty in the comment section. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe so you can be in the next video.
Okay.